today. This is Grant Adlam reporting live from Business Sense Studio. Today I'm sitting with Dr. Thomas Volker, who is the Quantum.Silver genius, isn't he? I've been chatting to Thomas over a number of weeks on various angles of Quantum.Silver, a couple of lectures. But what I thought would be an interesting thing to do is just to get Thomas into the studio and just tell us the full journey of how you got to where you are today. So, Thomas, take it away.
Yeah. Thank you, Grant. It's a pleasure sharing that. And it's actually a very interesting story because it wasn't pre-planned and we didn't look for it, but it came to us. So how it all started is in 2018. I was still living in Vryheid. One morning I got a phone call from two friends in Newcastle. And they phoned me and said, "Thomas, are you available today? We want to come over for a cup of coffee." And in their voice I could hear there's a bit more than just a cup of coffee with a friend. I said, no, they're very welcome. And a few hours later they were in my office in Vryheid, and we sat down and we did have a nice cup of coffee. But one of them reached into his pocket and put a small vial about this size onto the table in front of me, just to make me inquisitive and wonder what that is. So I looked at them with a smile and said, "Now, what did you bring along?" So they told me that the small grey powder, the very fine powder in this small vial, that is a product that they import from Germany. And it's a very new technology, new method, and it is silver based. And they use a quantum dot technology. And they didn't really know what to do with this product. So they prayed about it. And they felt led that they must bring it to me because I will know what to do with it. No, that was the worst. Because first of all, I was so busy, I didn't have extra time for anything else. I had never heard of silver or what it can do or can't do or what its possible applications are. And I just shook my head. They said, "Well, we're going to leave it here and we'll hear from you soon." So that was the start of me and this product called Quantum.Silver, our first introduction. So obviously with the inquisitive mind I had, and some of you might know that I'm a veterinarian and a businessman. I've been farming animals for all my life. We had lots of problems that developed over the years which aren't unique to South Africa but actually international. That there's a huge buildup of bacterial resistance against antibiotics. And our toolbox as a veterinarian to treat diseases is running out. So that's one of the concerns that we've discussed at length at international congresses and wherever we're in contact with people. So I started researching that evening. Every evening after supper, I started to go Google and find out what is silver and what is nanosilver and what can it do and what can't it do. Both the pros and the cons and how to actually use it. And after hundreds, probably thousands of hours of reading up, discussing it with my wife Monica, who's a nutritionist and also very keen on holistic approach to healthy lives. We discussed this at length over and over in different aspects, till one day the penny dropped and we saw that we can actually use this as an active ingredient and turn it into a healthy alternative medicine. Yeah, but that was easier said than done.
So the process is, how long did it take to get to the next step?
Yeah. I think the longest process was actually in my head to have the courage to use this powder, transform it into a medicine by mixing it and getting the right concentration. And then the question was, who would be the first guinea pig to actually use it and see, can it do what the literature says? And these are scientific, medically peer-reviewed articles that are published. Hundreds of them are available on the net. But one doesn't easily believe it till you've seen it yourself, till you have used it or someone close to you has used it and you see the results. So as far as I could establish, nothing had been done in South Africa. And I needed to make that bold move to actually start using it and see what the outcome would be.
Who was the guinea pig?
Yeah. So because of the many hours of reading, I knew that the specific product that we are using, the NANOSILVER complex that is made in Germany with the quantum dotting, is an extremely safe product. So at our factory just north of Vryheid, I called the employees one afternoon, and I told them about this wonderful medicine that we received from Germany. And I asked for volunteers who would be prepared to actually drink it and then tell me a month later, because I gave them enough stock each for a month, and then just let me know, have they noticed any change? Has anything happened or nothing happened? So at that point, my wife and I were on our way to New Zealand to attend a school there. And just before leaving, actually all 14 of the employees at the factory came and said they would like to try this. So I handed them each a few liters to drink, and we were off to New Zealand. And 5 weeks later, I was back. And then I started calling them in one by one, very nervous and not quite sure. Although I knew in my head that nothing negative would have happened, I actually hoped for more than that. So what I did, I called them in one by one for a personal interview. And just said, all right, have you taken it, yes or no? And if you have taken it, what did you notice on yourself? And I was quite astounded because I hadn't read up that much on this particular aspect, but all of them said that they have more energy. Especially because at the feed factory, it's a very manual work involving 50-kilogram bags that have to be loaded and offloaded and stacked and carried around. And they said usually in the afternoons, they didn't have enough energy to work a full shift. But after taking this for a week or two, they all of a sudden saw that in the afternoons they still have energy, and even when they go home, they don't feel as tired as they used to be. So that was really good news because none of them had chronic disease or acute disease in that process. And then one lady that also worked for me, she came and sat down and she looked down to her feet. I said, what's wrong? She said, no, she's got to admit that she actually didn't drink this medicine that I gave her. I said, oh, didn't you feel safe to do it or what? She said, no, I have a niece that's 12 years old. And this little girl couldn't go to school anymore because she's HIV positive, and she was so skinny, so thin, and just bones and skin left. She actually was recumbent and lying on bed already for a few weeks, and the family was expecting her to die. So she spoke to the mother of the girl and said, we've got this medicine that we can try out. Are you prepared that we give it to your daughter and see maybe something will happen? And then this lady that I was interviewing, her face just lit up. And she said after 2 weeks, this girl got up for the first time. Her appetite returned. She started eating, and a week later, she was actually back at school. And she was just a new person. And she called her a week later to actually come introduce herself to me, just to see this is not real. From a deathbed into a healthy little girl enjoying life again, how it's supposed to be. Now, this interview with the lady who's still working for us at the factory changed my life. And obviously also their outlook on Quantum.Silver. I said, well, if it can do that for someone where no known medicine can help, where the doctors just say, well, that's unlikely just a fate that you have to live with, there must be more to it. Yeah, so that was the conclusion of the interviews, and I knew I've got to pursue this and really delve a lot deeper into it to understand what it's all about and its different functions.
Thomas, that's quite it's an unbelievable story, really. I can see it brings a little bit of emotion into you.
It does, yeah.
So now you've got this incredible product, and now how do you take it to the next step? Going into the business side, the Quantum.Silver side. Yeah. That's the next step. How did you do that?
Yeah. So with this testimony that was so overwhelming and positive, because that girl had taken nothing else but Quantum.Silver. We had to start thinking about commercializing this and making it available to any person that would like to buy it and use it. So then we started developing the name and the branding of Quantum.Silver, and the name obviously reflects the technology behind it, the quantum dotting, how that specific molecule that we are using as active ingredient, how that is manufactured. And then we got professional designers involved to help us with the design and the colors. Yeah, so we had a factory lined up. We had our labels printed, and so we produced a half-liter Quantum.Silver bottle and started selling that through health shops and other avenues that were prepared to sell the product. We told many people about it wherever we thought there's a need or a possible help to cure what ailment they had. And the wonderful thing about this was that every person that used it, that came back to us or that we could ask again later on, had a positive testimony. And that really encouraged us even more to go beyond that. Now, after selling bottles for a couple of months, people asked more and more questions, coming to us and say, I battle with, for example, sinusitis. Can't I also use it to help me get rid of the sinusitis? They've tried all the antibiotics and the sprays and the this and that, but after months, it hasn't helped yet. And that's how the range started increasing. So the first one was to add a nasal spray. And then people had wounds. So we added the bottle spray, how to apply the silver onto a external wound on the skin, either burn wound or just from injury or post-surgery, whatever. And we also got positive testimonies from that. Then the next question was, what about eye infection or ear infection? Because that can be very niggling and sometimes become chronic. So then we had an eye and an ear drop. And then later on, we started producing the gels, also for skin conditions. And each process obviously took quite a long time, because you've got to research it, then you develop it, then you try one and you give it to 2 or 3 friends, use it yourself. Then you must see how well does it work, are there no allergic reactions, because all our products are very naturally based. We don't use any preservatives, we don't use any chemicals. So even the gels that we sell are very natural gels, just to make the application easier for skin conditions and wounds. And they have to go through test phases, enough people that must test it first before we made it commercially available. Yeah. And that is how the range grew. Yeah, and the very last ones that we actually started developing is my sister and others who often travel overseas. They also saw that it can be a problem carting bottles in your luggage, because the luggage is often mishandled. It is also bulky if you travel with a family and you want to have something in case something goes wrong. For example, at the moment, a good friend of mine is in Nigeria. He's a geologist, and he will never travel unless he's got Quantum.Silver with him. But it is difficult to carry the bottles with him. So we decided to also do it now in a capsule form. And that was a challenge on its own, which carrier to use and how to package it. And we got hold of a factory in Pretoria that helps us with that. It's also certified to do it. And so now we also have it available in capsules and in different formats, 10s and 30s and 90s. So that was the latest addition to the range. And now we probably have about 12 or 14 different pack sizes and different applicators for basically the same active ingredient, just in different formulations. So we can use it for a very big range of products.
So that whole process has gone from concept, silver, what did you call it, the powder, how did it go?
Yeah, it's a NANOSILVER complex.
A nano complex.
Yeah.
To the liquid, to the pill. So you've got an incredible range. Yeah. And we've been covering a couple of interviews as success stories, and the range
Yeah.
I mean, just highlight a couple of the success stories. Anybody watching this, you can go onto the YouTube channel and watch some of the people who've been interviewed. But let's get it from the horse's mouth. Tell me about it, Thomas.
Yeah. Now, if you introduce a foreign concept like Quantum.Silver, where people are used to traditional medicine or going to the chemist and obviously starting with the doctor and getting a script, you won't easily persuade people to use this product. I tried for many years. It doesn't just work like that. But what I noticed is those that where the doctors have given up, where they've tried every boererat that's available on the internet or that their friends can come up, and it still hasn't worked. Those are candidates that are keen to try anything because they are so fed up with their condition. For example, a friend of mine was managing a farm in southern Natal, and his friend had shingles, very, very severe bad shingles over the face, over his eye, and here on the side of his face as well. And it was burning, and the symptoms of that for nearly 2 years. He had gone to specialists in Cape Town, in Johannesburg, and in Durban. And he had spent thousands of rands on all sorts of medication, and actually got worse. He was really desperate because he couldn't live with his pain anymore. So my friend phoned me one Saturday and said, Thomas, I've got a few bottles here. Do you think Quantum.Silver may help him? I said, well, first of all, the product's extremely safe. It can't harm him. The worst that can happen is that he doesn't see a change. He said, well, my friend said he'll drive up from Maritzburg today to fetch a few bottles and start with it. And that was Saturday afternoon. By Monday, Tuesday, I got a phone call from my friend. He said, can you believe it? My friend says it starts healing. The pain is already gone. On the eye as well, the vision becomes clearer, and he can see that the scars on his face and those wounds are starting to heal. And he was also so glad and so grateful that he actually got it. So that was one of them that gave us a clear indication of that. Another person here from Durban, he was battling with a fungal infection on his scalp. And he also tried all sorts of shampoos and different medication, etc. He was actually so embarrassed that he always wore a cap. That cap, he didn't take it off for supper or breakfast at the table. He didn't take it off when he was in church, just to cover up the condition of his scalp, because it was very embarrassing for him. So we discussed this at a braai, and he said, Thomas, I need a few bottles, and he got a bottle or two. And then every evening after he showered, he just poured some Quantum.Silver in his hand and rubbed it over his head, into his hair, and just massaged it slightly. And he did that for 3 days. He said one day when he was in the shower, I think the 3rd or the 4th day, all of a sudden, as if his whole scalp came off, it was in his hand. And it was actually that layer of fungus interwoven with dead tissue of the skin that came off. And he said under that, when he went to the mirror, it looked like brand new baby skin, perfect. And he was so chuffed. Since then, he keeps his head often bald and doesn't need to wear a cap unless there's bright sun. He actually wants to show how healthy he is. So these are really testimonies of people who are desperate, who now found a cure. And a very easy, a very cost-effective, and relatively quick cure. The list just goes on. One that I still have to say before you ask another question, Grant, is a man that I've never met. He was in Gauteng, and he had a blocked nose and sinusitis, very severe. And he said he couldn't breathe through the nose, neither could he have that sense of smell. Had actually left him for about 2 years. All right. Now imagine sleeping like that, breathing like that, always with an open mouth. We aren't designed that way. And then he got hold of our nasal spray, and we encouraged him, once he's able to breathe it in, to also nebulize, because nebulizing with Quantum.Silver is highly effective for the lungs, for the upper airways, and obviously for the sinuses, because it goes into the sinus so much deeper and gets to the point of infection. And it wasn't a long time, probably also a week or 10 days later, and his nose was cleared, He could breathe again through the nose, which is for us so normal, but for him it wasn't anymore. And he had a sense of smell back. So he was so elated and just asked the agent who sold the product to him to relay this to us, which obviously is so encouraging, and also encouraging to other people who sit maybe with similar problems that bother them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, getting back to the success stories I've been doing is, a lot of interviews of people, and the result is always the same. But I think for the point of this, maybe you want to just go back into the processes and what it does.
Yeah.
So it says wonder, what do you call it, miracle juice, as a lot of people refer to it, and I also do. I call it a miracle juice.
Yeah.
But how does that miracle juice? Why does it work that well?
Yeah. Right. I think many know that thousands of years ago, the kings and the noble people had silverware through which they drank their wine or ate with silverware. And some of that silver obviously came off, tiny bits of it over time. And it was noticed that the noble people who have got silverware as cutlery and as cups, they were more healthy than the peasants who didn't have it. They didn't get sick easily, even when the winter came or flu season came, and they just lived longer and healthier lives. So there was something to silver. And now, many years ago, a lot of research had started to show the effects of silver. With our product, it's very different to the common colloidal silver that one can buy on a shelf at one of the big wholesale chains of pharmacies, etc. Because we make use in Germany of a process where they use an inert molecule and they quantum dot, they attach silver atoms to it to increase the surface area of silver. Now your question is, what does silver actually do? So silver has got very unique properties that it actually kills viruses. Now that is a huge statement, because there are no other products on the market that I know of that actually kill a virus. And there are many viral infections, like a flu, like shingles that we spoke about, HIV, measles, rubella, German measles, many others. We only treat, up to now, the symptoms, because there wasn't anything available. Now here the silver comes and actually denatures the RNA of the virus strand. So it kills the virus, it can't replicate, and then the body gets a chance to heal itself. And that is very specific. So the next question is now, if it kills the RNA strand or DNA strand of a virus, what does it do to our DNA? Right. So that was one of the very first things I researched to make sure. Now with our active ingredient, that big molecule, that molecule can't enter a healthy cell in a human. And that's why our product is uniquely safe. So it can't even enter a healthy cell. It can only enter a cell in our body that is already infected with the virus, whether it's in the lung or wherever in the body, in the sinuses, etc., in the gut. And that's where it attacks the virus inside the cell even, and gives the body a chance, your natural immune system, to get over it and heal itself. Now with bacteria, it's even more interesting, because our product, the Quantum.Silver, only kills certain type of bacteria that cause disease, and not your normal microbiome, your natural bacteria in the gut. Now any human that is healthy has got more than 250 different species of bacteria in a normal gut that help with digestion, with better immunity. They've got many functions there. They stop bugs coming into your body to make you sick. Now, if one drinks, for example, a broad-spectrum antibiotic that is on prescription, those antibiotics do not differentiate between good and bad bacteria. And that's why most people react very badly to antibiotics. And once that course is better and your fever is gone, many people have to take probiotics to build up that normal natural microbiome so that the normal function can take place. In case of Quantum.Silver, it selectively only attacks the bacteria that cause disease. Now, there's a difference between eukaryotic and prokaryotic, and I won't go into all that detail now. We've got it on one of the other blogs. But it's important to know that the membrane of those bacteria are not the same, the good and the bad. And that's why the silver can actually attack the bad bacteria that cause disease and not the good ones. We have confirmed that over and over. It has been published and researched. And even in animals, if we think of a ruminant, that's now a cow or a sheep that have got this big rumen stomach with lots of bacteria and protozoa that function there to change grass into nutrients for the animal. If one gives them the Quantum.Silver, it doesn't kill the bugs in that rumen. If you would give them antibiotics, it would kill those bugs and the rumen would stand still and not be able to perform, and the animal would actually die. In our case, the animal just keeps on being healthy and you treat the disease that you have. So we've got lots of confirmation as well as published research how Quantum.Silver differentiates between disease-causing bacteria. And the nice thing is that because the mechanism how the silver kills a bacteria is very different to, for example, an antibiotic, bacteria cannot build up resistance against our Quantum.Silver. So what we have is, if a person has got an infection and the antibiotics don't help, they prescribe a different type of antibiotic that's even stronger and also doesn't help, we can assume that the bacteria are resistant against that antibiotic. But if you give them Quantum.Silver, you can actually cure that infection and the body can get over it. Yeah. So that is very special. Now, what we have also heard a lot in testimonies, and you probably know about it, if a person has to drink more than one course of antibiotics, often the fungi in the gut and other places overgrow because the antibiotic only targets bacteria and then Candida overgrows, and that leads to its own problems. And you can even get overgrowth, vaginitis and diarrhea, etc. from a fungal overgrowth because of long use of antibiotics. Now, in our case with the Quantum.Silver, because if there are viruses that cause disease, it will attack those and kill them. It will do the harmful bacteria and it kills fungi at the same time, which shouldn't be there. So you never have that side effect that one could have from an antibiotic. It's like the 3-in-1, and it's got very strong anti-inflammatory properties as well, because wherever there's infection, the natural reaction of the body is to cause inflammation. And that increases blood supply to the area where there's infection. It becomes redder, it swells, more white blood cells come there to clean up the infection and so on. And our product helps to reduce that swelling, to reduce the pain, and it heals. In skin conditions, for example, with wounds, our Quantum.Silver will leave less scarring than if you do not use Quantum.Silver after such a wound. Yeah. So it's got a very potent but broad spectrum effect. Yeah. Is it magic? Well, for people that have been battling with conditions, they feel it is magic, and I don't mind if they want to use that word, but I think it's important to understand, and thank you for that question, how does it actually work? So you only apply it where it's supposed to work. Yeah. We've got a joke at home about that if you break your bones, Quantum.Silver probably won't repair the bone because it's not made for that. But otherwise, there are lots of applications of it.
Yeah. Thomas, I mean, I just love that enthusiasm that comes through, and the story is incredible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as you know, if you don't know, there's a video on how I used it, and also antibiotics after every time I do a race, I'm a man down until I did the Quantum.Silver, which Gail, my wife, insisted I used. And like you said, the story starts. On the Monday, I couldn't do a race. I cancelled the race. That was Monday. Quantum.Silver, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I phoned my friends, we did the race. It was as simple as that. A year of antibiotics, 4 days on Quantum. So I'm sold.
Yeah.
And also, I can't say everywhere. What did you do? I drank water. Yeah. That's what I did. So miracle water. That's what it is.
You actually left out the punchline.
Yes.
Because next to me, Grant is the new world record holder for speed on that race after a few days on Quantum.Silver.
That's also
That
true.
is fantastic. Yeah, world
don't know if
record holder for speed.
I'm sure it's not a steroid.
No, it's not.
It'll stand, yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are these wonderful things. So if you need to get hold of Thomas's product, it's on q-health.co.za, which is on the screen. And there's videos up there, there's lectures up there, and any queries that you might have, you can see that Thomas has done all the research. And I haven't come across anybody who hasn't said, listen, it's worked. From extremes to non-extremes, it just worked. So I don't understand. I know you've gone into a lot of detail. All I know is that it worked for me and others.
Yeah.
So
what is very great on our website is the search button at the top. I always remind people that whatever condition you want to know more about, or maybe you suffer from, type in that word. Like yesterday I was in Mooi River speaking to an agent, and then the lady asked me that her son has got ringworm. Can it help for ringworm? So I actually asked her to open the website, type in ringworm, and then search. And whoops, there were blogs, there were videos, there was presentations on it, and all the answers were there that she was looking for. So please make use of that search button. It's not complete yet. We keep on adding. It's a live website. As conditions come up and new testimonies come up, we do more interviews. But there's a wealth of information available already.
we could carry on all day, but we don't have enough time. Too many success stories out there. So Dr. Thomas Volker, thank you very much for joining me in the Business Sense studios, and have a good day.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks you for the opportunity.